Most people know that Shakira can sing in Spanish, but she actually speaks 7 languages. I don't mean she just learned some tourist phrases either. We're talking Brazilian street slang, Walt Whitman poems, and one language so controversial that Spain called her a traitor. But behind the glitter and the hips, something way more interesting is going on, because Shakira did not grow up multilingual. She had to work to learn these languages. And if you've been struggling to fit language learning into your life, juggling work, stress, a million other things, you're going to want to see how she learned her languages. I'm going to show you exactly how she did it and what you can learn from her method. So if you want to learn a new language yourself, or maybe 7, now you know how to do it.
¿Qué tal, amigos? Yo soy Shakira y los invito a que adquieran mi más reciente trabajo discográfico titulado Magia.
Shakira grew up in Barranquilla on Colombia's Caribbean coast. Spanish was her only fluent language. She started writing poems aged 8, picked up the guitar at 9, and by 13 she was already recording songs. And fun fact, the choir teacher kicked her out because her voice was too strong. She's 11 and singing on TV. What's wrong with that teacher? And you know what? Before any of us on this end had even heard of her, Shakira already had hits across Latin America, entirely in Spanish. And that's important because it's easy to assume that some multilingual people grew up speaking 6 languages before breakfast, but Shakira didn't. She started just like the rest of us with only 1.
Pero por lo pronto voy a dedicarme únicamente al canto y al baile.
Hey, if you're only fluent in one language right now, well, take a breath. You're exactly where Shakira was. If you've seen her belly dancing, you already know that didn't come from Colombia. It came from her dad. Her dad was Lebanese, and when she was a kid, she would hear Arabic music playing around the house, especially at big family dinners.
Is Shakira Arab? You might already know this.
Arabi, di origine arabe.
Di origine Lebanese.
Yep, she is, and if you're a little confused about the language part, here's the deal. In Lebanon, they speak Levantine Arabic. It's similar to what you'll hear in places like Jordan or Palestine. Same dialect family, but Lebanon has its own flavor. And it turns out, when it comes to ancestry, her hips don't lie. So cute. Now, there's a fun story that she's told a few times. She was 4 years old, eating at a Middle Eastern restaurant in Colombia, when suddenly a doumbek drum started playing and some belly dancers came out. And little Shakira climbed up on the table and started imitating them right there in front of everyone. And that was the moment, I guess, the spark. Her name even comes from Arabic. Shakira means grateful. By the time she was 12, she was performing Lebanese songs off by heart anywhere she got the chance. She even convinced her dad to buy her an Arabic music album so she could copy the sounds and practice those hip drops and shimmies, which she may or may not have learned from her Lebanese gran. And this was not the end of her Arabic story. But first, she had a whole continent to win over.
Nunca senti que eu era uma diva, né? É simplesmente uma artista que tenta compartilhar sua música.
Brazil was calling and Shakira answered. She was just 18 when she started touring in Brazil, and Brazil went absolutely mad for her. And when you're on stage in Sao Paulo with a sea of fans screaming your lyrics back at you, you quickly realize Spanish alone isn't going to cut it. So she made a choice. She started picking up Portuguese right there on the job. It doesn't look like she even took any classes, just learned through all the interviews, rehearsals, stage banter, chatting with fans, hearing street slang, you know, real life language. And only 2 months in, she was speaking Portuguese.
Esperava assim esse sucesso surpreendente?
Eu estou muito surpresa porque jamais imaginei receber tanto carinho, tanta aprovação.
She sounds so good. Obviously, Spanish helped, I know, but even native Spanish speakers struggle with that twisty Brazilian accent, and it's very easy to end up speaking Portuñol, like half Spanish, half Portuguese, because you can kind of get by. Not her. She spoke Brazilian Portuguese. Next thing you know, she's recording full songs in Portuguese, coaching Brazilian singers on The Voice and winning over an entire country. You know, I really love that she trained her ear just by living it. And you hear a bit of Spanish sneak in sometimes, but her Portuguese is solid, somewhere around a high B2, I would say. Anyway, Portuguese helped her blow up in Brazil and earned her a pretty awesome name, the Queen of Latin Music. Now, speaking of new countries and fitting in, if you are planning a trip somewhere, maybe where you plan to speak a bit of the language that you're learning, I highly recommend you sort out your internet first, because travel is travel, whether you're Shakira or the girl next door, and traveling without data is just a nightmare. I've landed in new cities before without phone data, and it's such a nightmare not to be able to call an Uber right away or text my family, get onto Google Maps, whatever it may be. Sorting out your internet should actually be top priority. These days, I use a brilliant little app called Saily. Now, Saily is a travel eSIM by Nord Security that gives you instant mobile data in over 180 countries, which is great. An eSIM means you don't actually have the old physical SIM card that you put in your phone. The eSIM is it exists just inside your phone. So there's no cards to put in, there's no airport kiosks, there's no hunting around for Wi-Fi when you get off the plane. You just download the Saily app before you leave, you pick your destination, follow a few steps to install it, and then when you step off the plane, it's there waiting for you to use. You can use my code Olly Richards at checkout to get a 15% discount. And that's it, you step off the plane and instantly you have data. It's fantastic. I use Saily all the time whenever I travel, for calling taxis, looking at my Airbnb information, whatever it may be, all the little things that keep your trip smooth. And I would never travel without it anymore. It's one of those tools that you really don't think about until you really, really need it. And because Saily have sponsored this video, they have given us 15% off. Just use code Olly Richards at checkout, all one word, and you'll get 15% off your plan. Because the last thing you want is to be stuck on the wrong train, going in the wrong direction with no signal. Rather stay connected and stay safe with your Saily eSIM. You can scan the QR code on the screen or grab the link in the description.
I'm not, how do you say feminist? Feminista?
A feminist.
Okay, I'm not a feminist. I'm just a humanist.
Look at that, asking how to say the word on camera. She's never embarrassed to do that. Now, a lot of people think English was Shakira's second language, but when she arrived in the US the first time, her English was extremely basic, and yet she was already releasing songs in English. How? Well, in the beginning, she had help from the legend herself, Gloria Estefan, who translated some of her early lyrics.
Yes, because she didn't think she could do it. And she's a poet. So I was listening to her songs in Spanish, and I would hear in my head, I go, Shaki, these songs, I go, I'm going to do a couple for you so you see. Some artists have never done it. They've stayed in Spanish, even though they may have been able to cross over. And I showed her that she could do it, and boom.
The problem was that even though she was surrounded by Spanish speakers, she knew that if she wanted to break into the US scene, English wasn't optional. But she didn't just sit back and sing the translations. Oh no, she wanted to write her own lyrics. So she rolled up her sleeves and got to work on her English. And unlike Portuguese, English gave her nothing for free. This wasn't just a different language, it was a totally different system. So what did she do? She got a tutor. She bought a rhyming dictionary. She'd sit there writing lyrics one word at a time. Not exactly how I would do it, but hey, this is not my story. She gave herself 2 years, and I can only guess that this next part had something to do with her poetry obsession. Shakira decided to go full nerd and start reading the great poet Walt Whitman. Leaves of Grass, if you're curious. That's some serious poetry. And why stop with Whitman?
I also read, too, that to learn English, you read a lot of Bob Dylan lyrics?
Bob Dylan.
Is that right?
Yeah. Leonard Cohen as well.
Yeah, Leonard Cohen, yeah.
Yeah, if I was gonna do it, if I was gonna learn English, I better learn from the masters.
Yeah, they're
and
great.
I wanted to understand everything about, the resources of English literature and composition and all of that.
It's just amazing. Seriously, Shakira chipped away until she could speak and write fluently, getting feedback from everyone, her producers, collaborators, friends. And sure, you can hear she's struggling in her early interviews, but there she is, on TV, trying and smiling. And the coolest part? She said that songwriting actually sped up her learning. That's not just a pop star trick, by the way. It works for anyone. Even learning lyrics helps your brain absorb grammar and vocabulary. When I first learned Brazilian Portuguese, I learned by learning to play and sing bossa nova songs on the guitar. I had no idea what I was singing, but I was learning the lyrics, and it formed a real solid foundation for me in the language. But with Shakira, have you ever heard her throw out words that most native speakers don't even use?
Deliciously contradictory and paradoxal. Adam has quite a conundrum there. It's very didactic. Your voice is so diaphanous and...
Diaphanous.
Hey, that's what happens when you train like a beast. She does it in Spanish too, by the way, just saying. Now, honestly, English was probably her hardest one, but everything she did, repetition, memory tricks, songwriting, that's not celebrity magic, it's smart language learning. And notice what Shakira did not do. She didn't sit there with grammar workbooks. She wrote songs, she read poetry, she sang lyrics over and over and let native speakers corrector. She treated language like a living, moving thing, and that's why it sticks. That's how you remember words without having to try. Look, maybe you clicked on this video because you love Shakira, but I'm guessing if you've got this far, there's probably a language that you've been meaning to learn too. But what if you could learn a language the way that Shakira did? Because the gap between you and her is not talent, at least not when it comes to languages. It's just knowing what actually works. So I've got something for you. It's a guide, it's a free guide called the 10 Rules of Story Learning, and it shows you how to learn a language through stories, which is what we teach here, just like Shakira used songwriting. And here's what happens when you learn through stories. You stop looking up words and you somehow remember more of them more easily. You stop forcing grammar rules and actually feel and notice how they work. You follow the story and your brain does what it does best, noticing patterns from the story and soaking things up. It's the same idea as when you learn the lyrics from songs that you like. You're not studying, it doesn't feel like studying. You're just naturally getting used to the language. That's how Shakira learned 7 languages, and it's way more fun than the usual methods. So if your language dream's been stuck on pause, well, scan the QR code on the screen or grab the link in the description. This is free and it might be exactly what you've been missing. But once you start learning languages, it's hard to stop.
È una fondazione chiamata Pies Descalzos. Che ho creato quando avevo 10-8 anni.
Now let's talk Italian, and I'll be honest, this one's not a great sweeping love story. Even Shakira says she doesn't speak Italian all that well, but did she try? Of course she did.
Io ho un po' di sangue italiano.
Un po' di sangue italiano. Che sei nata in Colombia, vero?
Sì.
Però sei libanese, colombiana.
Libanese, spagnolo, un po' di italiano também.
She picked it up by spending time in Italy, just hanging out with locals, throwing herself into the deep end. She's got a pretty strong fan base there, and it's clear she made the effort to connect. She sings in Italian, has spoken Italian at events, and she's rather stubborn about doing it all without an interpreter. But check this out, a little bit of Italian goes a long way.
È bellissima, veramente, sì.
Unica al mondo.
Mi piace moltissimo, è unica nel mondo, sì.
This moment's fantastic. She's on live Italian TV, and she tells the interviewer she's totally chilled about speaking in Italian. She even switches to English for the bits that she can't quite say. And honestly, I think that's the key. Fluency is a weird word. People love to argue about it, but the real question is, are you willing to try to focus on communicating even if you don't know the words? Because Shakira is, and let's be real, a lot of people in her shoes would not even bother, especially when you're already juggling 4 or 5 other languages. The cool thing is, once you've got a few good strategies for learning, picking up another Romance language isn't as hard as you think if you already speak Spanish and Portuguese. Which brings us to... I bet you already know this, and it's true. One of the best ways to learn a new language is full immersion. Of course, if you're someone like Shakira touring the world year after year, immersion just kind of happens. But by this point in her life, she'd already learned the hard way. Nothing kills a great song faster than a weird translation. So when her label wanted to release music in French, she took the same approach as always. Understand enough of the language to personally make sure every version of every song meant exactly what she intended. So she learned French.
Si je suis là ce soir, c'est grâce à vous.
Pretty cool, huh? She always says that she's not fluent, but I don't know, she looks pretty relaxed and engaged to me. She's clearly put in the work.
J'ai toujours ressenti une connexion spéciale avec les gens de la France et je suis profondément reconnaissante de tout l'amour que je reçois de vous.
You know that song that you heard at the start? It's a classic French ballad, Je l'aime à mourir, and she sings it beautifully. But she's done way more than this. She's sung at festivals and given entire French interviews, and no, there's no script reading going on. It's all real. She knows more than enough to get by, and this is fluency in my book. At the very least, functional fluency, conversate, whatever you want to call it, is great. Well, you'd think that she was done after all that, wouldn't you? But here's where things take a political twist. Catalan. Crazy how singing a gorgeous song can get you in trouble. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So Shakira's mum's family name is Ripoll. That's a Catalan name, and Shaki uses it. But the real reason she started picking up Catalan was, well, it was a man. Maybe you've heard of her big romance with the football legend Gerard Piqué. Catalan is his home language, and Shakira lived with him in Barcelona for over 10 years. If you've ever flown into Barcelona, you've seen Catalan on the signs. It's the main language there. And if you've never even heard of it, well, it's a Romance language that sounds a bit like French and Spanish got together and had a child.
Sobretot, en un dia com avui, que hi ha tant per celebrar. I gràcies per fer-me sentir com a a casa.
So naturally, she picks up some of the language, no big deal, right? But then one day she sang in Catalan, and suddenly the girl was in hot water. You see, at the time, Catalonia was pushing hard for independence from Spain. So when Shakira sang in Catalan, some people accused her of being a traitor. Seriously, social media blew up. I mean, come on, she's just doing what she always does. She throws herself in, heels and all. But what about Arabic? I told you this chapter wasn't done yet, and as you might have guessed, Shakira never forgot it. She's performed in Arabic, in Beirut for goodness sake, and that ain't easy. I struggled to find evidence that she's a fluent speaker, so she's probably not, but she's clearly studied the sounds and gone deep into the feel of Arabic. Beautiful. She often chats about how she grew up listening to the Arab world classic divas, and it's good to have an inspiration as strong as this. It can really motivate you when things get tough. In fact, here's something exciting to look for. Shakira plans to learn more Arabic so that she can fulfill her dream, which is, of course, an entire album in Arabic. Oh, and somewhere in there, I believe she started learning some Hebrew, something to do with her work with UNICEF. But what I really want to know is, can Shakira speak Japanese?
Time and I learned a new word.
No. But someone else can. This guy learned Japanese just to be in a cool crime drama called Tokyo Vice, and you won't believe how he did it. It's an epic story, and that's why you absolutely cannot miss this video right over here.